Prepare yourself for Star Wars: Shadows of the Empire. The evil Empire has struck back with a vengeance, and a new villain, the crime lord Xizor, schemes to replace Darth Vader as the Emperor's second-in-command. With Han Solo held frozen in carbonite by bounty hunter Boba Fett, it's the rebellion's darkest hour. Now, join Jedi warrior Luke Skywalker, hard-charging Chewbacca, and go undercover with heroic pilot Dash Rendar and his booming Outrider. But can Han Solo be freed and Xizor be stopped? Star Wars: Shadows of the Empire. Look for the authentic figures and vehicles from Kenner.
Alright guys, I'm here to talk about Star Wars: Shadows of the Empire, part of the first multimedia project for Star Wars back in 1996 that featured a video game by the same name, a novel, and some tie-in comics, and of course the toy line. The novel is written by Steve Perry, and it's set between episode 5 and 6. One of the standout characters in this story is definitely Prince Xizor.
Prince Xizor, or pronounced Xizor,
who is the prince, the underlord of Black Sun, the crime syndicate. And in this story, he is essentially one of the three most powerful men in the galaxy, the other two being Emperor Palpatine and Lord Vader. And in this, he wants to basically replace Vader as the Emperor's second-in-command, on top of getting revenge on Vader for essentially causing the death of Xizor's family. And part of that revenge is killing Luke Skywalker, because Xizor knows Vader wants him alive. They share the same name. For some reason, Xizor does know that Vader is Anakin Skywalker, at least knows that one of his names is Skywalker. He was called that at some point. Now, I'm not an expert in this Star Wars canon, the real canon, the expanded universe, so I'm not sure how easy it is for people to find out that Darth Vader is Anakin Skywalker, if it's a well-kept secret or not. From the stories that I have actually read in the expanded universe, I never got the feeling like it would be easy to find out who Vader really was. I guess because Xizor is the head of this crime syndicate, he might be able to do it. Though, since the character dies at the end of this, it doesn't really go anywhere, so I don't think it really matters in the grand scheme of things that he knows that Vader was once Skywalker. But this plotline of him wanting to usurp Vader's position in the Empire actually fits in really well with the stuff that is set up in the novelization for Revenge of the Sith, in the novel Rise of Darth Vader, in The Force Unleashed, where Vader is trying to find a reason, find a way to get rid of the Emperor, and the Emperor is waiting for a reason to replace Vader. That's kind of the point of the Death Star. Once he has this, he doesn't really need Vader to be his enforcer anymore. And at that point, he's trying to get Luke to replace him. And obviously, because he's willing to sacrifice Vader potentially, he is sort of encouraging Xizor to be antagonistic towards Vader, to potentially beat him. Now, Vader does end up finding out that he is responsible for the death of Xizor's family, and Xizor wants revenge for that. But the way their conflict wraps up in this book, I felt was pretty underwhelming. However, I still like the character. And then there's Xizor and Princess Leia. This is very weird, their dynamic in this. Xizor has these pheromones that he can release for the opposite sex that basically alters their brain so they're attracted to him. Now, this is another thing I was a little disappointed by, because Leia does get influenced by these pheromones. She's feeling all attracted to Xizor. Then Chewbacca essentially warns her that this is happening, and then she's able to overcome the pheromones' effect on her, but it's portrayed like just because she knows it's happening, it helps her resist it. I was hoping it would be more obvious that it was actually her connection to the Force that was helping her out with that. It wasn't so obvious if that is the case, if that's why she was able to resist it. And there's a few times throughout this book where Leia is having an internal conversation with herself and referring to herself as sister in a way that feels unusual. I feel like she doesn't do that ever again in the EU. Maybe she does. It just didn't feel like the typical internal monologue. It was like two different versions of Leia speaking to each other. It was weird. And throughout this book, both Luke and Leia are trying to figure out what they feel for each other. I think eventually they realize it's more of a familial love, but it starts off as maybe romantic. And that is a little awkward, because we know they're siblings, but they might have a crush on each other. It's not that crazy. Of course this happened. We know it happened. We saw the films. But actually seeing them touch on that in this novel, I wasn't expecting it, and it was interesting. And because Xizor is influencing Leia a bit, she's questioning her love for Han. She even thinks about how the last thing she says to him is "I love you," and what he says in return is just "I know." It's a great moment in the film. I think it works, and they pay it off in episode 6 where Han is the one who says "I love you" and Leia's the one who says "I know." I've always enjoyed that. And bringing it up here, I don't think it really mattered to Leia, but because she's being influenced by these weird pheromones, it's turned into a problem that she has, basically so she can convince herself that it's okay to sleep with Xizor, because she, again, is being influenced to feel that way by Xizor's pheromones. And I'm glad it never actually went anywhere, because that would have been a little too messed up. But of course, we cannot talk about Shadows of the Empire without talking about Dash Rendar. Since in the game you play as Dash Rendar, he is the main character, a lot of this novel is not present in that game, but there are some moments that are crossovers, but a lot of that game is a separate story, because this is, of course, a multimedia project. And it's through Dash Rendar we actually get to see what the line from Mon Mothma is referencing when she says, in Return of the Jedi, many Bothans died to bring us this information. It's information regarding the second Death Star. And the only reason I want to bring this up is because I feel like there are some Star Wars fans who misremember this and get the details mixed up and believe this is referring to the first time they went out and got plans for the Death Star. These are different plans for a completely different Death Star. I like the way Dash Rendar is characterized and how he's used in the narrative. I like how the death of the Bothans actually weighs on him and he feels a lot of guilt about it. And I think it's interesting that when he fails, in his eyes and in Luke's, Luke is almost happy about it. This smug rogue failed on this mission. And you know, it's stuff like this that shows you that Luke's emotions aren't exactly under control. He's not a proper Jedi yet. By the time of episode 6, by the end of that film, he is. Despite this book being really good, I do think it suffered from a lack of Han Solo, especially with Dash Rendar being there. He's a budget cuts Han Solo. Maybe he's Han Solo in a different font. I don't know how you want to describe him. A darker Han Solo? He's not Han Solo, and that's a problem, because we clearly need him. He adds something to the dynamic of Luke and Leia that is missing when it's just Luke and Leia and Lando. I don't like that. I like Lando a lot. In this story, he doesn't really get up to much. Neither does Chewie. They don't really do anything that interesting. They're very much side characters. But I did like seeing Lando team up with our heroes as a stand-in for Han Solo. And while I do like Lando's character, he's better utilized in other EU material. And look, I don't want to spoil the whole book for you, so there's plenty of stuff I didn't really touch on. These are just some general thoughts I had after reading the book. It's a good book. I would recommend it. And that's all I have to say. If you like the book, if you've read it, let me know what you think about it below. Let me know, comment for the algorithm. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you later.
With what they did with Luke and the Jedi in general, I think bringing in some non-Jedi characters to kind of add to the mix would really make a lot of old school Legends fans like myself feel at home